go. Okay, you guys, we are sitting down with Sali Christeson. I'm saying that correctly, right?
Impressively, yes.
Okay, good. She is the founder of Argent, a women's workwear line. And it's not only is it chic, as you can see right here, I'm wearing one of the hot pink suits. We'll get to why it's hot pink later. But in the meantime, it's functional.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a rare thing in the workwear world, which is wild, right? Like we have inner pockets, even this, which is so cool,
Mm-hmm.
right? For our little pens, maybe a tampon, we don't know.
Lip gloss.
Lip gloss.
This is my favorite. There's a band in the sleeve, so when you push up the sleeve, it holds it in place.
Which is amazing because they
Mhm.
always fall down on me and I find it so irritating.
Same.
Okay, so we have that. And then we have a lot of powerful women who are wearing this because it's so functional and also just cool and amazing. Like Hillary Clinton, we have Kamala Harris, Amy Poehler, Katie Couric, Caitlin Collins, Ava DuVernay, who I'm obsessed with.
Oh,
I love her so
same.
much. I worked with her once, and she's just a literal beautiful human.
Lovely human.
Love her.
Agreed. Yes. I think that women haven't gotten function in clothing, period. So
Which
if you
is
want to, yeah.
Unreal.
It's not specific to this category, but we have introduced it to this category for the first time.
I read somewhere that you had said that a man told you that women don't like their clothes to be functional. And I was like, well, that's news to me. Tell me. Why?
The quote was utility. I have it in writing. Utility doesn't belong in women's clothing because they don't want it. What?
I've never heard anything further from the truth in my life.
Just think about all the memes there are related to pockets.
Yes.
Like
I love a skirt with a pocket.
anything. We all love pockets. I mean, how many
yes.
brides do you see with like their hands in their
Ugh.
pockets, just bragging about having pockets in a wedding dress? Like it's just so
100%.
it's such an opportunity. So
Yes.
yeah.
So you launched this in 2016.
Yes.
But I want to go back a year to 2015 because I read somewhere that you happened upon a study that said what women wear can, over the course of your lifetime, affect your bottom line by 20 to 40%, which when I read that was wild.
It's wild, but it's not shocking to women.
Yeah.
I've talked with so many people about this over the years, and I think we've all experienced a lot of gender bias.
Yeah.
And I personally and professionally, but professionally, it's quite obvious that we're being judged for everything. And there's also this confirmation bias that happens. So when you step into a room and someone expects women to be less than, or they have that, natural bias, if you're not dressed the part, that immediately reinforces it. And so they're not hearing your message. And so, yeah, I read this study, and I think for me, it had been such an overlooked category my entire career and my entire lifetime. And I'd always been frustrated by the fact that no one was catering to working women through dress, but also no one was speaking to that woman through any sort of like cohesive brand,
Right.
And so, I just read it and thought, I think that this insight can be used in a way that really benefits women. So how do we focus on solving the problem from a product perspective and introducing function and versatility and style and quality in a category that's had none of that, and at the same time give women confidence through the clothing and allow them to really show up and to force people to notice what they're wearing in a positive way and then focus on their message.
There's just an incredible pressure on women to be what somebody else wants us to be. I mean, even do you remember with Hillary Clinton, she wore these pantsuits and then it was like, oh, you are tough and strong, but then you're not likable. And there's just this impossible thing to figure out,
Yes.
right? So it's just a battle, but it is so important to feel confident in your clothes that you're wearing and being able to go into work and present that side of yourself. Because there's so much other stuff that's always working against us.
Yes, what you just said, though, what I want to highlight is that women are walking this impossible double standard, and we always have been. And that's an intentional manifestation of the patriarchy. And what has been so refreshing in the past few years is that there is this sense of awareness of all these things that are at play.
Yeah.
And women are kind of just barreling through regardless and really embracing things that have historically been taboo. That's what I've seen for the first time in my career. Women are talking about ambition and investment and how do we support one another. and really moving into this mindset of abundance and all boats rise with the tide. And so how do we lift women up together? It's a phenomenon that I think you're actually seeing play out with Kamala Harris. Women are really coming around her and insulating her from a lot of the rhetoric that was used for Hillary Clinton, that we've learned that lesson.
And just something that you were saying, like raising awareness. Like sometimes you sit in this moment and you recognize what's wrong with the world, but you don't necessarily know what to do to change it. Obviously we can vote, which is why we all need to do that, right? But raising awareness and just talking about it is so important. Like there's so much value just in like finding like-minded people, spreading the word, talking about this.
Totally. Talking about having kids, talking about how hard that balancing act is, talking about being fired and being okay with it, talking about failure, risks. Like this is some like nuance for women who have been forced to feel like they have to be perfect. Now I think there's this level of vulnerability and conversation that's happening that's actually quite empowering. And is going to move the needle.
Totally. I'm thinking of a story that you shared in one of your interviews that I'm like, it's crazy to me that even now we're dealing with pay gap, but the story that you told when you were in corporate America. Yes. Can you just tell that really fast? Because I was blown away and I literally felt rage in my heart when I read that.
I'll start by saying that we're always telling women to negotiate. And I have seen this firsthand, and I've seen it play out with people that I've mentored, that women fundamentally have a different experience and they get more pushback when they negotiate, and no one's giving them the tools beyond ask for more. And so in 2007, I graduated college. I got my first job at a bank. The hiring manager, it was a family-owned bank. The hiring manager was the head of HR, a woman. And I asked for more, and it was like a hard no. I didn't push at all. Like I didn't feel confident, but she basically said, you should be grateful to even have this job. And it's a good example of sometimes women can work against one another, because what I later found out is that the men that asked for more got more.
And not just 2,000, they got 3,000 more. And they had just like admitted this to you.
Yes.
I think so many people want to think that we've evolved, want to think that that's a thing of the past, but it is like an insidious thing that still happens, which is just a reminder why we also have to feel our best going into these situations so we feel as confident as possible and demand what we believe we deserve.
And like, almost in to an uncomfortable level of like confidence. Like I am a very confident person, but to sit across from someone that is 30, 40 years your senior and hold your own when you are so naive and inexperienced, that's why conversations like this are so important, because we have to fight for what we deserve. On the same token, I think that sometimes that advice can be taken too far. And that's been experienced where it's like, I've been at this job for 6 months, I need more, and I'm being told to ask for more. That's not necessarily the insight, right? I think that it's about ensuring that women are kept on the same path that men are put on, because the second that men are offered more money, every raise from then on out is based on a higher base salary. And so in corporate America, it's generally done as a percentage. And so men just start outpacing women right out of the gates. And
over time, that just becomes exponentially more than the women was.
Correct. Correct. It happened to me again, though, later on in my career. I took on a huge job, and I was basically told, I asked for more money, but I was basically told that you're really junior and lucky to have the opportunity, And so I should have fought more for that as well. I actually think that the helpful thing for people to hear is that, having been on the other side of it in corporate America and hiring people, we would offer people one amount and they'd come back asking for like 200% more, and it'd be given pretty easily. You know what I mean? Because you're desperate for good talent. And so I think that just understanding that this, like the offering that you're bringing to the table and having confidence in that, companies are looking for good talent at all levels, typically entry level, because that's a lower salary for a really hardworking person that doesn't have a lot of external responsibilities. So when it's the right fit, companies are willing to pay. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I think someone's at the door. Who is this one? Oh, hello. Do we know that person?
We do. He works here. Sorry.
So
you did your research.
Yay! I do want to talk about like when you were starting your company. So you
Mhm.
started it in 2016. By 2020, I read somewhere that you had $4 million in investments,
Mhm.
which like in the scheme of startups is pretty small,
Mhm.
right? But that was really intentional because it kept you scrappy. It kept the brand authentic. It kept you from overspending. If you look around, if you look at all the pieces, like everything is like perfectly curated. There's thought in every single part of it, right? Because you're a part of every part of the process.
Mhm.
There are articles where, she was cleaning toilets, driving the U-Hauls, carrying around all the racks because, like, you do what you have to do.
Still do it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that. Nothing's changed then?
No, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. Last week, actually, we had a couple of things that like I just got to step into, and they
Mhm.
were incredible because our team is incredible, and I didn't even know 95% of what was going to be there. So now we just have a great team.
Yeah.
Um,
But because you slowly hired people, I also read that that's like really intentional. Like, don't hire too quickly.
yes,
Right?
yeah,
Make sure
for
you're getting the right team.
Yeah, well, that's one I had to learn the hard way. So
Oh.
two different things. So one is I don't know if that's in like the fundraising and doing it scrappy. That's probably partially true and partially a narrative that I told myself and convinced myself of because women are so severely underfunded. So I think that to get the brand off the ground, we raised a little shy of 1.5 million. Took me over a year to raise that compared to like there were men starting clothing brands that raised that in a week. And the amount of time women have to invest just in bringing money on, it's so broken and it's a really fraught conversation and no one solved it. That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
But it really makes you so incredibly disadvantaged for a whole number of reasons because you're not allowed to fail. And like you're not allowed to have those micro failures that are pretty necessary in building a brand. On the same token, I do think that we've been so intentional with everything that we've built and we've been really scrappy and that has benefited us immensely to date.
Yeah.
But to get to this point takes a level of like resilience and I mean the list is it's just so intense.
Mm-hmm.
Almost to the point where I don't know that it has to be. It's just that's a result and a reflection of being a female founder. And then the other thing you asked about was what was your second part?
Wait, now I'm like,
2020, what did you say? Oh, the hiring piece.
oh yes.
Yeah. So okay, early before the brand launch, we met with a very, very like one of the. Actually, I'll just say who it is. We met with Howard Schultz.
Okay. Wow.
At his office, and it was a 2-hour meeting, which is so generous.
Mm-hmm.
Howard's pretty like he's known for wanting to meet with founders because it kind of gives him his edge. He wants to continue, like he kind of wants to stay relevant, I guess. And like I think there is energy that comes from meeting with true entrepreneurs. And so I met with him, and he said, "Be really careful when you build something because it is so vulnerable, and you don't want people to come on board that just see you as a paycheck. You want to bring people on board that require, like, that won't take no for an answer, essentially." Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I took that advice because one, you have to learn it the hard way, but two, you're vulnerable and you're desperate and you feel a level of confidence, like false confidence probably, but from building a team because it's like, oh, it's not just me, this is real. But bringing people on that have such conviction in what you're building is so necessary. And so I think it took us until about 2021 to really start building the right team, which is one of our unfair competitive advantages now. And that's why we've had such success in the last few years, is because our team is just on a different level. Mm-hmm. And the other advice is and this is what we do now, hire slowly and fire quickly. I just hired someone. I hire so slowly, like to the point that it freaks people out a little bit.
They're like, okay, what's happening?
But this woman who I just hired was chasing me. Like she's like, I'm still really interested in the role. I'd still really like the role. I've been so busy. So part of it is that. I really want her for this role, but she has had to really chase me to get the offer. That gives me peace of mind that we've hired the right person.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, this is actually the perfect segue then to just the idea of community being so important to you, right? It feels like if that's the umbrella, you have this group of people that you're building within the company, your team, the work friends, which is another component of that, and then also the community that you're building with women, people in general who value women and their rights and want to vote in alignment with those things, right? So maybe we can take each piece of that. I guess you really spoke to the community piece, like within the company, right? So my friend Gina, who I did a YouTube video with, is how I know Sali, how I know Argent, and she's like one of the loveliest, most loyal, sweet, creative, just like good humans, right? Like there is no one better than Gina. So it makes sense that she's aligned with you and this company, and everyone else that I've met that works for Argent is like cut from the same cloth, right?
Yes.
That's so cool. I'm like, God, did I go into the wrong things? Like this is like, I'm like, this is cool.
So Gina's incredible, so we can start there. And I do think that there's an evolution to what we've built. And so early days, like our focus really was on catering to the individual. So how do we service the individual and add value to her? And we really iterated for the first few years on like what language works, who is she, what product works, what's resonating. That's such a journey. And we were cultivating relationships in that process that are still very much involved in what we're building. But that's really to build a community authentically. It really is a long game. And so I think that that's a huge piece of it. And then, fast forwards, we launched in 2016, fast forward to 2019. That's when we started featuring real women in our Work Friends franchise. Fast forward to 2021, that's when Gina started, and we brought on an editorial director for the first time. I don't think you can do everything out of the gates. Like you really have to ensure that you start at your core. And for us, it was starting with the product and starting with the language and the brand and the photography, getting all of that to the right place. It just doesn't happen overnight in a consumer-facing brand. And I think a lot of brands feel pressure to introduce everything right out of the gate. And so I think because of that evolution, now we have the best team and the best community. But I also think Argent's always been focused on sort of holding a mirror up to women because we don't do it to ourselves sometimes. And so it's like we just reflect what we see back to women. So we're celebrating incredible women. We all are incredible. We're defining the odds, honestly, just by existing. And so a lot of the women we feature are household names. Some are not household names. Regardless, I think there's just recognition that it's been hard. And so by featuring these women and putting a spotlight on them, I think there's sort of deserved acknowledgement of that. And then on the flip side, we want to offer representation to our community. And that really is sort of reinforcing what we're building. And then, the last thing I'll say, and this is really non-linear, but between team and community, our goal is always to add value for both. So like, I think it's just mutually beneficial. And that's like the sweet spot, right? So it's like, Gina, we couldn't build what we're building without Gina. At the same time, Gina's getting to like feature these remarkable women, sit down with these remarkable women. She's getting other opportunities that she wouldn't have elsewhere. So it's like, how do we find that formula for every person we touch is essentially the goal.
God, I love that.
The fact of the matter is to make it to this point with the amount of funding that we had, which is essentially anemic, like our revenue is going to match the amount of money that we've raised to date.
Wow.
This year.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Life of the company, our revenue this year will match that.
Okay.
Like that's remarkable.
Yeah.
But it's because we have found a white space and we've built something that really fits that need. And that's super exciting. And now we're in a place where it's very obvious like how we can grow and how we can scale it. But getting to this point has taken almost 10 years.
That's incredible. Wow, you're too young for like such a, I mean, it's really
thanks.
impressive.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Really,
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Yeah.